You're looking at your paycheck. Friday afternoon, direct deposit just hit. $3,840 after taxes. That's $46,080 annually from your $62,000 salary. And you're thinking, I make decent money. I should be building wealth. I should be getting ahead. But here's what actually happens to that $3,840. Rent takes $1,550. Car payment takes $415. Student loans take $285. Insurance takes $195. Utilities and phone take $165. Groceries take $380. Gas takes $170. You're down to $680 for the entire month for everything else. And you're sitting there thinking, where does wealth come from if this is middle class? You're making more than most people. You're doing everything right, but you're not building wealth. You're just existing, paycheck to paycheck, at a higher income level. And here's what nobody tells you. Your salary was never designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to keep you economically stable enough to keep working. That's the middle class trap. My name's Peter, and if you've ever wondered why your salary feels like it should be enough to build wealth, but somehow isn't, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the relationship between salary income and actual wealth accumulation is completely different than what you've been told. So let's start with what actually happens when you try to build wealth on salary alone. You make $62,000. That's solidly middle class. You're a marketing manager, software developer, accountant, teacher, doesn't matter. The math is the same. After taxes, you take home $46,080 annually, $3,840 monthly. Now, here's what conventional financial advice tells you. Save 10 to 15% of your gross income. That's $6,200 to $9,300 annually. Put it in a 401k, get compound growth, retire comfortably. So you do that. You contribute 12% to your 401k. That's $7,440 annually, $620 monthly. Your take-home is now $3,220 after the 401k contribution. And here's your actual expense structure. Rent is $1,550, down to $1,670. Car payment is $415, down to $1,255. Car insurance is $195, down to $1,060. Student loans are $285, down to $775. Health insurance premium is $145, down to $630. Utilities and internet are $165, down to $465. Phone is $85, down to $380. Groceries are $380, down to $0. You're at $0, and you haven't paid for gas, clothes, any kind of social life, anything unexpected, any actual living beyond pure survival. So what do? You reduce your 401k contribution from 12% to 6%. Now you're saving $3,720 annually instead of $7,440. That gives you back $310 monthly. Now you've got $310 discretionary. Still tight, but survivable. And here's the math on wealth building at that rate. $3,720 annually in your 401k for 30 years at 7% returns gets you about $353,000. That sounds like a lot, except you're retiring at 65 with $353,000, which needs to last 25 to 30 years. At 4% withdrawal, that's $14,120 annually, plus Social Security, maybe $22,000 annually. Total retirement income, $36,120. You worked for 30 years, saved responsibly, and your retirement income is $36,120 annually. That's barely above poverty level. You didn't build wealth, you built survival-level retirement savings on a middle-class salary, doing everything financial advisors told you to do. Most people think the solution is to earn more. Get to $80,000, get to $100,000, earn your way into wealth. That's not how it works. That's the trap. Here's what actually happens when you go from $62,000 to $80,000. Your after-tax income goes from $46,080 to $58,400. That's $12,320 more annually, $1,027 more monthly. And here's what happens to that extra $1,027. You move to a better apartment, $250 more monthly. You upgrade your car when the lease ends, $180 more monthly. You increase your 401k contribution to 10% because you can afford it now, $185 more monthly. Your lifestyle calibrates to your new income, better groceries, more going out, nicer clothes, $300 more monthly. Total lifestyle increase, $915 monthly. You're making $1,027 more. You're spending $915 more. Net improvement in discretionary income, $112 monthly. You increased your salary by $18,000, and your actual financial flexibility increased by $112 monthly. That's 7.5% of the raise, improving your financial position. And here's your wealth building trajectory at $80,000. You're now saving 10% in your 401k. That's $8,000 annually. Over 30 years at 7% returns, $759,000. At 4% withdrawal, $30,360 annually, plus Social Security, $24,000. Total retirement income, $54,360. You're making $80,000, and your retirement income is $54,360. That's a 32% reduction from your working income in nominal dollars. In real purchasing power after 30 years of inflation, it's about a 65% reduction. You didn't escape the trap by earning more. You just moved to a higher income version of the same trap. And here's why. Salary income is linear. You trade time for money. 1 hour of work equals 1 hour of pay. You can increase your hourly rate, but you can't increase the number of hours. You're capped at 40 to 50 hours weekly. Wealth, actual wealth, isn't built linearly. It's built through compounding returns on assets, and salary income doesn't give you enough margin to acquire meaningful assets. There's a specific mathematical reason why salary will never make you rich. It's called the consumption floor. The consumption floor is the minimum amount you need to spend to maintain a middle-class lifestyle in your geographic area. Housing, transportation, food, healthcare, basic quality of life. In a mid-tier U.S. city in 2026, that floor is about $42,000 to $48,000 annually for a single person. For a family, it's $65,000 to $75,000. When your salary is $62,000 and your consumption floor is $45,000, you've got $17,000 margin. After taxes on that $62,000, you've really got about $7,000 to $9,000 margin annually. That's what's available for wealth building. $7,000 annually growing at 7% becomes $666,000 over 30 years. Sounds good, except inflation increases your consumption floor 3 to 4% annually, and your salary increases 3 to 4% annually if you're lucky. So your consumption floor and your salary rise proportionally. Your margin stays roughly constant in real terms. You're saving $7,000 annually at age 30 and $7,500 annually at age 50 in inflation-adjusted dollars. Your margin never widens significantly. Meanwhile, people building actual wealth aren't relying on salary margin. They're building assets that appreciate independently of their time hours. Someone buys a rental property, puts $40,000 down. The property generates $18,000 annually in net rental income. They're building wealth at $18,000 annually on an initial $40,000 investment, and that income isn't dependent on them working more hours. Someone builds a small business, invests $25,000 initially. After 2 years, it's generating $35,000 annually in profit with minimal ongoing time input. They're building wealth through asset ownership, not salary. Someone invests $50,000 in dividend-paying stocks, gets 4% annually. That's $2,000 in passive income the first year, growing annually. Not much initially, but it compounds independently of their salary. The common factor,
They converted salary into assets, and those assets generate returns independently of their labor hours. Their wealth building isn't capped by their available time. You, relying on salary alone, are capped by your hours and your margin after the consumption floor. And that margin, in real terms, stays roughly constant regardless of how much your nominal salary increases. This is why salary will never make you rich. It's mathematically capped by the consumption floor in the hours in a day.
You're lying in bed, Tuesday night, 1 a.m. You're 38 years old. You make $75,000. You've been working for 15 years. You've done everything right. You've got $85,000 in your 401k. You've got $6,200 in savings. You've got $14,000 in credit card debt from various emergencies and lifestyle creep over the years. Net worth, $77,200. And you're thinking, at this rate, when do I actually become wealthy? You've been working for 15 years, and your net worth is $77,200. That's $5,147 per year of wealth accumulation. At that rate, you'll have $231,000 in 30 more years. Not $231,000 plus your 401k. Total net worth of $231,000, including your 401k. That's not wealth. That's a barely adequate retirement if everything goes perfectly and nothing unexpected happens. And that tightness in your chest, it's the realization that salary was never the path to wealth. It was the path to stability, to consuming at a middle-class level without going into poverty, but not to actually accumulating significant assets. So here's how people who actually build wealth on middle-class salaries think about it differently. They see their salary as seed capital, not as income to maximize consumption from. Every raise, every bonus, every bit of margin goes into acquiring assets that generate returns independently of their labor. When they get a $10,000 raise and see $625 monthly after taxes, they don't ask, what can I afford now? They ask, how much of this can I convert into assets before lifestyle inflation consumes it? They might take $400 of that $625 and automatically invest it in index funds, rental property down payments, starting a side business, anything that creates equity or generates cash flow. They allow themselves $225 for lifestyle improvement and immediately lock in the $400 for asset acquisition. When they're 28 and making $58,000, they're not trying to look like they make $58,000. They're living like they make $45,000 and converting the $13,000 difference into assets. By 35, those assets are generating $8,000 to $12,000 annually in passive returns. When they're 40 and making $78,000, they're still living like they make $52,000. The $26,000 difference goes to asset acquisition. By 45, those assets are generating $25,000 to $35,000 annually. By 50, their salary might be $90,000, but their assets are generating $45,000 to $60,000 annually. They're no longer dependent on salary for wealth building. The assets are compounding faster than their salary could ever grow. While most people try to maximize their lifestyle at every income level, they minimize lifestyle and maximize asset conversion. Completely different strategy. This doesn't make you wealthy overnight. It doesn't solve every problem. But here's what it does. You stop being dependent on your salary for financial security. Your salary covers consumption. Your assets build wealth. They're separate systems. You stop thinking, I need to make $120,000 to be comfortable. You realize comfort comes from asset income, not salary income. You can be comfortable at $65,000 if your assets are generating $30,000 annually. You stop trading time for money exclusively. You trade time for money, convert money to assets, let assets generate returns. Your wealth isn't capped by your hours. You make decisions from abundance instead of scarcity, not because you're rich, because your financial security doesn't depend on keeping your job at any cost.
Now, let me be clear about something.
This isn't about shaming anyone for not building assets. Most people were never taught that salary income has a mathematical ceiling for wealth accumulation. You were told, go to school, get a good job, make good money, save 10%, retire comfortably. That worked in 1975 when a middle-class salary could buy a house, support a family on one income, and build meaningful savings. It doesn't work in 2026. The consumption floor is too high relative to middle-class salaries. The margin is too thin. Trying to build wealth through salary savings alone is like trying to fill a pool with a garden hose while it's draining. Technically possible, but mathematically limited. So here's the thing about why your salary will never make you rich. Salary was designed for consumption, not accumulation. It's meant to enable you to live at a certain standard, consume at a certain level, participate in the economy as a consumer. Wealth comes from ownership, owning assets that appreciate or generate cash flow independently of your time. And salary, by its nature, doesn't provide enough margin above the consumption floor to rapidly accumulate those assets. Most people spend their careers trying to maximize their salary, thinking higher salary equals wealth. But higher salary just means higher consumption floor. You're running faster on the same treadmill. The people who escape the middle-class trap don't maximize salary, they maximize asset conversion. They aggressively convert salary margin into assets before lifestyle inflation consumes it, and they do it for decades. That's not sexy. There's no shortcut. It's boring, disciplined, unsexy wealth building through systematic asset acquisition on a middle-class income. But it's the only math that works when your salary is capped by time and your consumption floor rises with inflation. You can't save your way to wealth on salary alone. You have to convert salary to assets and let the assets build wealth. The question isn't, how do I make more money? The question is, how do I convert the money I make into assets that grow independently of my labor? Answer that, and salary becomes seed capital instead of a trap.